Is your demanding work lifestyle in need of fire-resistant clothing that can keep up? Well, L4FR clothing should be your go-to for quality, affordability, safety, and style. L4FR was founded by a third-generation oil field worker who is also a veteran. Thus, this company has a deep appreciation for reliability and longevity, all while we provide first-rate customer service. Our durable apparel will serve you well for many years to come, whether you're working on a pipeline, a lineman climbing utility poles, or in any other environment requiring fire-resistant apparel. L4FR has you covered. Our apparel is tough enough to resist hazardous conditions while still providing high comfort and style. L4FR provides clothing options to ensure your safety and comfort, whether you're on the job or not. To view our complete inventory of flame-resistant garments, please visit our online store at l4frclothing.com or give us a call at 817-757-4935. Si habla español.
Struggling with mobility, chronic pain, work, or sports injury? At Azalea Orthopedics, our team of highly trained physicians specialize in complete orthopedic care, pain management, sports medicine, physical medicine, and rehabilitation. If you've sustained a bone or joint injury, have mobility or movement problems, struggle with pain, contact Azalea Orthopedics. We're conveniently located across East Texas, serving 18 counties. When visiting your doctor, urgent care, or hospital, you have a choice. Demand Azalea. At Azalea Orthopedics, your health is our priority.
And good evening, everyone. It's the mobile edition of the weekly wrap-up show. It's your boy, Brett Swinney, alongside a couple of different faces tonight. Vince will be joining us shortly. Corey's out for this evening. We've got Kyle, Jeremy, and the professor is going to come in for a little segment. Welcome, guys.
What an honor. Yeah.
I feel like I should be talking to AEW or something tonight, but instead we're going to be talking East Texas football, and I'm here for it.
This is like the off the ropes edition of the weekly wrap up show, guys.
I was confused. I had to check my notes. What am I? Is it Young Bucks or the Buckeyes? I'm confused. Which one we're talking about tonight?
Just want to welcome Matt Diggs in. For those of you who don't know, Matt, introduce yourself so some of these Texas faithful may not know who you are.
Yeah, I am. My name is Matt Diggs. You can find my Twitter work at Professor Diggs, and I'm currently 36th in East Texas Pick'em. So just pretty much disregard everything I say because Kyle is ahead of me, and if Kyle is ahead of me, then I really have no benefit to being here. But I'm going to try to at least redeem myself verbally.
See, Matt, the problem is I'm more familiar with the small schools. See, you got the big schools in DFW. I'm more of a small school guy myself, so that's the only reason. I would say are we balance out?
I call myself small school Digsy at times. I mean, but when Gilmer is 1-2, what can you do? I mean, I'm just.
It's a surprise. It's a surprise for sure.
So Matt, I mean, how are you feeling? And you just said you're 30 something. Your Pick'em crown is at jeopardy over here in East Texas. What's going on?
I'm winning the DFW area Pick'em, so I do have that going for me. Currently sitting at a nice 23-6 in first place over there. So we'll get there. 18-12 over here on the East Texas side of things. But I'm learning. You know, I'm still learning. Texas High has dominated DFW schools so far, so that's been a little bit of a surprise. But I learn, I adapt, and I'm tired of Price Carlisle letting me down. I don't even know where Price Carlisle is, and they let me down every single week. I can't pick them right.
I mean, you should be listening to our show, Diggs. If you listen to our show, I mean, KO, am I right or am I wrong, man? I mean,
nail on head right there.
I mean, I was 10-0 2 weeks ago, Diggs. I just got to tell you that. We won't talk about last week. 6-4 is not terrible, but 10-0 was pretty good the week before.
And Price Carlisle, Diggs, is I believe it's over Rusk County, over near Henderson, I believe is where that would be.
Between Henderson and Kilgore is where you would find that.
There you go.
If you'd have gone with the Tigers the last 2 weeks, you would have been correct in those games.
But alas, still just trying to figure out the East Texas small school thing, but it's fun, and I'm glad I'm glad you have the NetSN app, so I can just easily get on my phone on Thursday right before the games and enter my picks in and pray.
It's pretty easy. Probably the easiest way you pick games, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I love that you have that instant. I feel like I'm a NetSN advertiser right now, but I love that you have the who picked what. So I have that immediate kind of regret, like, this is not looking good for me right now.
Yeah, I'm 1 out of 51 that picked that game. I'm in trouble, maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, it could be the other way. It could be the only one that picks it correct. So
But even though I'm 36, I am in the top 20%. So I'm definitely not bottom dwelling.
Well, that's good. So Matt, while we got you here, what games over the first couple of weeks that you've seen kind of surprised you or that you liked over here in this East Texas area that you can tell us about?
Absolutely. I'm surprised by Tyler High and their resurgence. Them beating Mesquite Horn the way they did them winning at home was not a surprise. Them beating them by 3 scores and completely dominating a ranked 6A program has just made that 7-5A Division I ridiculous now, because you've got Lufkin, Lufkin versus Longview at Longview this week is just going to be an absolute banger of a game. Forney is playing lights out. You have McKinney North, who made the playoffs in this district last year. This is a 6-strong, 6 teams that could legitimately be ranked in the top 15 in our DFW area poll are basically going to have a battle royal the next couple of next 7 weeks. So we are talking about fantastic football out of Lufkin and Tyler High, and because they started out like that last year. I remember Lufkin got on my radar beating A&M Consolidated, and then they just kind of fizzled out when district starts. But I think this year might be a little bit different, especially with Tyler High, because man, they're looking dominant, and what can you say about them? So that completely surprised me so far. Pleasant Grove has played very well. They had a very fluky but last-second win over Brock, and that shows their strength. So I'm keeping an eye on them. Surprised by Gilmer falling off the way they have, but Carthage has just been absolutely dominant so far. So a lot of good football happening out in East Texas right now.
Uh-oh. He might be frozen.
Contemplative look at that commentary, but Jeremy, to quote CM Punk, have I told any lies?
You have not told any lies, and we've actually talked about this a lot on the show. Speaking of Tyler High, Diggs, first off, the whole state of Texas, the football scene is better when Tyler is good again, and Coach Woods has got those guys going. And you're right, I actually picked against John Tyler. Sorry, I picked
Uh-oh.
against Tyler High last week.
Uh-oh.
And it was mainly, I mean, and KO can tell you this. I've been tooting the Tyler High, horn for the first 2 weeks. I just wasn't sure they could handle the front lines of Horn, and you know that area, Diggs. They got a bunch of D1 guys up front, and it's one thing to run around guys or whatever, but to dominate the line of scrimmage and to win a game by 2 touchdowns, what they did, I thought was very impressive. And you're right about that, and it makes that district a lot better, as you mentioned, and the whole Gilmer thing. We've spent a lot of time talking about that. KO will tell you, and I think that it's, every good thing comes to an end, right? And even Carthage, maybe are they still what they were? I don't know. We were kind of shocked when Chapel Hill beat Gilmer the way they did, but then Gilmer to lose to Kilgore, and then the Paris game. I don't know. I mean, Diggs, you probably know more about Paris than I do. I mean, I've kind of, after I saw the score, I kind of looked and I was like, man, what in the world is going on there? To win that game by 3, kind of shocking. Sorry, got a little choked up there.
Jeez.
Got worked up, Diggs. Got worked up, but you're right. You haven't said anything that's not true. Yet you said a lot of things that we've been talking about for the last few weeks, for sure. But man, I think that the biggest surprise in 3 weeks in East Texas definitely is Tyler High.
To piggyback off your point, though, Jeremy, I know when I was in school, we played Paris, and the idea going into the week that we were playing Paris is if you get up on them early, you got them. Like they'll self implode if you get up on them early, but you let them hang around, and they will be the toughest team you play all season. So I don't know if it's still that way. That was 10, 12 years ago, but I don't know if it's still that way. But that's, historically how Paris has been, that if you let them hang around in the game, they're going to give you the game of the season that they for them. But so I think that's partly what happened with Gilmer. I also do agree, though, Gilmer I think is a little down this year, and it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Metzel and the Buckeyes navigate through the season.
Yeah, Paris is absolutely a playoff team in that District 8-4A, but I mean, they're going to be fighting for seeding because obviously you want to avoid playing Salina in that first round. In District 7-4A, which is what 8-4A will be playing in the first round with Salina and Panther Creek and Carter, that is a much above average district this year. So if you're a Paris fan or a Sulphur Springs fan, seeding really matters in there because the difference between 3 and 4 might be a playoff win or not even being competitive in the playoffs.
So do we see the Gilmer-Pleasant Grove game being closer? They're kind of on 2 different spectrums right now.
I don't think it'll be close.
I don't either.
I mean, if we had talked about this preseason, we did a little bit, probably we probably would have thought the game might have been a little closer, but just the way the 2 teams have started has kind of been polar opposites.
Yeah, I think PG I think they're going to put it on Gilmer this year. That's if they played right now. Now we both know teams can change throughout the year. So, but right now, if they played tomorrow, I would put PG by probably 3 or 4 touchdowns on Gilmer.
You're telling me that the gap between PG and Gilmer is greater than the gap between PG and Carthage?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that, Diggs?
I mean, Pleasant Grove, they only beat Brock by a field goal, and then they only beat Midland Christian this past week. They've been coming out to Dallas a lot. They played in Prosper this past week, and now they're coming out to play a Frisco Memorial team that's been absolutely horrendous. So to me, can Pleasant Grove score enough to beat them by 3 or 4 touchdowns? That would be my concern. But I definitely think they're a favorite over Gilmer.
Well, the thing about Gilmer is every time I go to talk, I'm choking up. Sorry. But they gave up 71 in week 1 to Chapel Hill. No thing there. They gave up 24 to Kilgore in the loss, and they gave up 40 in the win against Paris. I think Pleasant Grove will have no issue scoring against Gilmer unless they tremendously improve defensively. I mean, I don't know what you know about Midland Christian, how much you follow Taps, Diggs, but that's a pretty good Taps team, historically. So to score 45 against them, I mean, I've had to make that trip to Midland and take my loss before. So I think that I would definitely say the gap between Pleasant Grove and Carthage is smaller than the gap between Pleasant Grove and Gilmer. I think that, as good as Carthage is, they're still, they're good. Don't get me wrong. They're the best team there, but they may not be.
Marks too.
Yeah, they have some questions defensively. They have some questions defensively a little bit, it looks like.
And that falls under culture because you can see these teams that struggle a little bit. And even Gilmer, I'm sure there's going to be that light switch that comes on by the time the playoffs hit, and they're going to definitely be a tough out. Yeah, but because they're going to have to get ready in that district, because obviously when you have Pleasant Grove and Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh can be a scary team at times, So Gilmer will get better as that because the DFW teams in 4AD2 are not very good. So they're going to get a little bit of momentum before they have to start playing those East Texas teams again in the third and fourth round. And I never want to see a Gilmer team in the playoffs, no matter how far down they've been in the regular season. You see that across the board at times when you have teams that struggle. I've seen that with Salina quite a bit. Salina will have lose a couple of head scratchers in non-district, and by the time playoffs come, they turn it on. So Gilmer has that culture and that tradition, and that's why I've been losing against them, because I haven't been listening to you guys who are watching them and seeing that talent gap. But I still think those young kids are going to get a lot better by the time we get to week 12, week 13.
Well, and to your point, Diggs, the 8-4A district they're going to see, other than Carthage, as long as they don't have to face Carthage in the first round, I'm not sure how strong it is. Now, we've been talking a lot about that district with Brownsboro and Rusk and Van and how good are those teams, but I think they'll be fine until they get – I mean, they have a chance to make a playoff run as long as they can avoid Carthage early.
I think they need to avoid Center too, because Center has shown that they can put up a ton of points, and Gilmer's shown that they give up a ton of points. So I think if you avoid Carthage or Center, you have a better chance. But I think Carthage or Center is better right now than Gilmer.
And that district's showing to be pretty deep. You got Brownsboro's undefeated, Bullard's undefeated.
Yeah.
And listen, I love those teams, and we've talked about them. But look at who they're playing versus who Gilmer's playing at this point.
Sure.
But that district, Gilmer should finish second. They should be able to avoid Carthage and Center both. I mean, unless North Lamar, who's 3-0, or Pittsburgh, who's 0-2 at the time or right now, if they can, somehow sneak, I don't see Gilmer losing to either one of those two teams. So I think they'll avoid that and have a road, and they will get better for sure. I mean, they're not a team that's gonna. I say they are. Maybe they're not. We had that conversation too. Maybe they are what they are right now as we go forward.
But even Van in the second round, or the first round, if that's the third seed in that district, that's not an easy draw. The mighty Vandals can play very strong football. So in Center, I spent way too much time researching Center and North DeSoto last week because I got my own pick'ems and I'm trying to figure out these Louisiana games and North. And that was a shootout. North DeSoto is a fantastic team in Louisiana. They're a team that's playing for a state championship every year. So what Center did to play them competitively and keep that as a one-score game, even in a loss, Center is constantly going up in value in my radar. Their stock is definitely trending the right way.
Scoring a bunch of points for sure.
That's for sure. Well, Matt, I don't want to keep you from your crew, but I appreciate you joining us tonight. Hey, there's a show we do every week that you might want to check out before you make your picks. It's called the Beast from the East Show here on NetSN. Go check that out. It might help your picks, and if you start rising up the standings, we'll know exactly why.
I'm going to trust myself for a couple more weeks. Not that I won't be tuning in anyway, but I will redeem myself. And you've done a good job picking a wide spectrum of games across the classes and even private school games that are very challenging. And I probably should have known not to pick against Tyler Chapel Hill early on because they have come out of the gates just ridiculously on fire.
You should have listened to me. I told you should have left us in that poll, and I told you that was bulletin board material for the Bulldogs.
You are correct, sir. I apologize.
That's Professor Matt Diggs. Thanks for joining us, Matt. We'll catch you next time.
Matt. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me for a few minutes.
Always good to have the professor join us.
That was very cordial between you and Professor there, Jeremy. I'm proud of that. It's only wrestling that gets y'all fired up.
They didn't start talking fire table matches or anything.
We haven't seen each other in a while, guys. So I guess that's
because Jeremy's been still injured from all those matches they had. He's been on the injured list.
Absent makes the heart grow fonder, Jeremy. That's what that is.
Complete side note here. We were researching. This is like way off topic, but it's okay. we have our fantasy football league, and we were like, what should the punishment be if you lose, if you're last place? And I came up with you should have to go be involved in a backyard wrestling match, like one of these promotions. You should have to be in one of the matches. Like, I think
That
that'd be
sounds
awesome.
fun to me.
I
That
would try to
sounds
lose.
fun.
I would try to lose on purpose. I don't
I
know.
would tank the season.
Oh man. Oh
It'd be
man.
awesome.
All right, let's talk
Anyway.
about some of these good games we had this last week. Week 3 kind of started off with maybe one of the games of the week. Timpson Dangerfield, guys. Timpson was able to squeak it out, and no, I may have talked to you guys about this, but what a way for Bussy to return. 90 seconds to go. Garner gets cramps. It's like, hey, Terry, can you come in, sub? Oh, number 1 ranked athlete in the state. Oh yeah, sure. Leads them down the field for a game-winning drive. I had Timpson in this one, but man, this was a great game here. And of course, we are still keeping Chase Johnson, the quarterback, in your prayers. I don't know what his status is for this week, but any of you guys that saw the accident, just a miracle that he was able to walk away, be alive in general. So that's awesome there.
Yeah, the game lived up to the hype. It was kind of everything we expected it to be. It was a question mark. We kind of assumed that Chase wouldn't be playing Friday night. And he didn't. And like you said, our thoughts and prayers are with Chase, and I wish him a speedy recovery. But I would like to see them play again with Chase and Terry Bussey playing the complete game. I think that would be really fun to watch. I'm not sure the outcome would be any different. I still think Timpson's the better team, but it would be fun to watch. It would be a ton of fun. So I think Coach T over at Timpson had Terry in his back pocket the entire time. I think Terry's was ready to go, and he was just being cautious with it, which absolutely is Mr. Texas football for 2A. You got to be cautious with him. But to have that on the bench to like, hey, our quarterback's cramping up, can our, Mr. 2A Texas football player of the year come in and, I don't know, win us the game real quick? Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. I mean, it's like you write movies about this stuff. So I think Timpson's a very good football team. I don't think they're going to have any problem this week with Wascom. I think that one's going to be over early. And according to Coach Thurwanger over there, Terry Bussey will be starting this week against Wascom. So
the question is,
fun to see him.
Over under how many quarters will he play? Maybe halftime.
3. I think he plays 3. Because he needs to shake off some rust, too. He hasn't played all year. I mean, other than the 10 seconds or whatever. But he hasn't played all year, so he needs to shake off some rust, too. So I think he plays at least 3 quarters, depending on how big the lead is at that time.
Well, just to clarify, Bussey played the entire game Friday night. He played receiver and DB the entire time. Yeah, he played the entire game. He did come in and play quarterback the last 90 seconds.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah,
so he
played.
Oh, man.
So if you take into consideration the fact that he was on the field the whole time and Dangerfield didn't have
everything
Johnson.
I said.
Yeah, forget
well, no,
I said too.
It's not something that was advertised. I just happen to know somebody pretty close to the situation on the Dangerfield staff, and we were talking about it, this past weekend. But like, it's still the truth. When your quarterback goes out, I mean, think about Dangerfield's situation. Their quarterback doesn't play, and they have to go to their backup the whole time. Their backup's not Terry Bussey, so that makes a huge difference. I will say this: I would like to see him play again too. And there's a couple of things about it. If you were at the game or saw the live stream of the game, I'm not so sure that. I mean, Timpson wins at the end, and I saw the play that they got down inside the 10 on, and it should have been a penalty. And the illegal formation, and the refs let it go, and I mean, who knows what would happen even if they call the penalty there, or whatever. But this game was pretty stinking close with Dangerfield playing without their best weapon at QB. So I picked Timpson in the game. I thought with Johnson out, it would just make too much of a difference. But man, I mean, I don't know, man.
Dangerfield's good. Dangerfield's really good.
And I've been one of the ones all year saying like, man, what they got to prove it. And I think even in a loss, I hate to hand out those trophies, KO, but even in a loss right then, they proved it.
Here we go again.
We can't even get through one game.
It's a close loss, and
But KO, think about it. They go on the road to take on the best player in the state in the classification, and they lose by 7 in the last 90 seconds of the game. I mean, other than winning the game, they can't do much more than that, right? I mean,
I agree. It's so
It's a good
I
lot.
agree with you, but I also feel like this is a different situation than the Kilgore Carthage thing. But
for sure.
anyway, we're not going to get
100%.
into that. But
100%.
yeah, I agree. Yes, you can take from this, okay, we only lost by a touchdown in the last 90 seconds to one of the best teams in 2A in the state without our best player. We're good. Like that's the mentality you can have going forward. So absolutely, I'll agree with that.
I think if they meet again, if they were to play again, I don't know. I don't think it might be different. I mean, put them on a neutral field somewhere and let everybody be healthy and see what happens. Now,
but let Bussy play quarterback for Timpson too.
Well, for sure. No, that's the thing. I mean, you got to give everybody all their weapons, and maybe that's different. But I don't think you're going to see Bussy at quarterback a lot this year. Truthfully, I think he may, just kind of be a playmaker for him. Yeah, I think they're going to protect him as they go forward. Now, you get in the playoffs and they're trying to win the whole thing. Of course, you put the guy in the backfield. Why wouldn't you? But like I said, I did pick Timpson as a great. The game was what we thought it was going to be, and probably even better without the quarterback.
Vince, we're talking Timpson Dangerfield. We're talking about how Bussy led the game-winning drive. Actually, we found out he played the game a receiver. We didn't know that. So he played. He actually
played the entire game.
Played the entire game, receiver and DB.
Okay.
All right. The next, I think Vince knew where we were because he wanted to get to this game too, so we could talk about Beckville and Harmony.
Okay, let's go, Vince.
And Kyle, I've been looking at this because Kyle's been telling me he's got some stuff to talk about too. This one surprised me a little bit. We kind of were down on Beckville. Everyone except Vince was down on Beckville, and they came out and put it to Harmony. Guys, I'm feeling. I know Jeremy and I've talked about this a little bit. I don't know if it's about Beckville, more if it's about Harmony just not being they're not grooving right now. Something's off with Harmony, I think.
I have an explanation.
Okay.
I have an explanation.
Come on with the excuses.
And it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse, but last year when Harmony made their deep run, they were very fortunate to be very healthy throughout the entire season. They didn't have a lot of injuries. According to Coach Jenkins over at Harmony, and it's public information. He posted it on Facebook, so I feel comfortable saying it. But he said in his 20 years of coaching, he has never seen a rash of injuries with a football team like he has this year at Harmony. The 2 starting tackles were out Friday night. They had a defensive lineman / fullback / tight end playing left tackle. So, and then they had another skill position player playing right tackle. Their starting quarterback, Boston Seahorn, Mr. Everything for Harmony, he got hurt, knee injury. He's going to be out for a few weeks. He should come back later in the season, but he's definitely out for a few weeks. Then you have that same Braxton, the same guy that had to play left tackle. He's banged up. They're without a kicker. Like, they are just hit with the injury bug bad. So, yes, credit to Beckville. They still got to go out there and play. Like, Harmony's not just going to roll over on them. So credit to Beckville. But also, Harmony's dealing with a ton of injuries right now, which is why we're not seeing that same Harmony team that we saw last year. They were very healthy last year, bitten by the injury bug this year. So it's unfortunate, and you hope that. And they have very good sub-varsity squads. Their JV and freshman teams are very good coming up, but now they're kind of getting thrown into the fire quicker. So learning curve right there, and with the injuries, so they'll be okay, I think, once they get healthy. But yeah, right now it's a tough time for Harmony.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, injuries happen. They're part of the game.
It is.
I mean, honestly, I joke around with the polls because I just don't take them that serious a lot of times. But the Beckville thing, to me, it was hard to count out Beckville because they lost to Timpson. Because this is exactly what happened last year. Last year they lost to Timpson, and then they went undefeated the rest of the season. And they beat everybody else they played. Until they got to Joaquin, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they played Joaquin again, and they lost. Yeah, okay. So, to me, I'm not going to throw them out of my poll when they, because they lost to Timpson again this year, and Bussy wasn't there, because we already kind of established that Timpson without Bussy is still a really good team. So I was just going to let them do what they do, which was show up and play football. Now, somebody else may have counted them out. I mean, Harmony might have thought they was gonna walk in and just do whatever they wanted to do, But something that I used to say when I was playing football was that, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your record says, and I don't care what the paper says about you. You still got to suit up and play me Friday night, and it's not gonna be easy.
So
I'm gonna give you hell.
let's speaking of polls, let's take a poll. Who picked Harmony to win on the Pick'em game?
I did.
Go ahead and raise your hand, Vince.
I don't remember what I picked.
Yeah, he picked Harmony.
Yeah, he picked Harmony.
I did.
He picked Harmony. Yes.
Remember, I was going back and forth on that. I said I don't remember what I picked.
We all took the L in that one.
Here's the thing, too. That game was called at halftime, so it could have got a lot worse. Like 35-18 is what the final ended up being. That's through one half of play. So, and I didn't know about the injuries coming into the game, but after now knowing about it, if I could go back and if I would have known that ahead of time, I would have picked Beckville. Just because Beckville is a very good football team, but I just thought Harmony healthy was better, but they're not. And really, no team's healthy at this point in the season.
Even Eddie picked them, so
Yeah.
If Eddie picked them, I feel smarter than I did.
I ain't gonna listen. I ain't like it. I ain't gonna throw it in your face. I thought about it. Friday night. If you caught me Friday night, I was on 10 Friday night. But
me too.
But yeah. If y'all had won that game, because I had a text loaded, and I was gonna send it to everybody. Like, are y'all watching and seeing what Beckville's doing? And then, the way the game went and everything, and I was like, I don't need to send that to Jeremy right now. I was like, not right now. I'm gonna let him make it.
He turned his phone off. I tried to call him. He went straight off. He turned his phone off. It was.
And then when it was over, I was like, maybe I should just let him know. Like, man, the defense was dope, bro. Like, you did your thing. You just,
Yeah. We'll get there in a minute.
Don't be too hard on the kids.
No, no, for sure. Hey, I want to say this about Beckville and Harmony. I was one of the ones who wrote Beckville off from the very beginning. Okay, and I'm going to eat a little crow on this because, even with the injury thing, injuries happen, especially in small school football. You're going to get that, right? And so they still got to win the game. And 35 points and a half, I don't care who you're playing. That's hard to do. I mentioned this about Harmony before the year. Was it lightning in a bottle last year? And, the injuries kind of changed things, I know, but man, I look at that. I look at the White Oak game and I'm like, even though they won the game 70-something to 30-something, it's like, how did they give up 30? And they lose. They're 1-2, and their one win is against White Oak. I don't know, man. I think I'm not writing Harmony off by any means. Don't hear me say that. But I think we need to step back and see what happens over the next few weeks. And even with the injuries, you got to kind of see how they respond.
I do remember last year with Harmony. You're right, because they did lose a few. I was looking at the schedule here, and I was like, they did lose the first 4 games, and nobody was really paying attention to them. And then they kind of got a streak going before they lost again to Dangerfield, and then they just took off. So you're right. They kind of they got hot at the right time, and that's okay, and it could happen again.
It doesn't discount what they did for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't discount what they've done. So
and also last year, that Dangerfield game, when they went on that run after they started 0-4, that Dangerfield game, Boston Seahorn got injured on the first series. So there's a theme with their quarterback being out, which quarterback's a very important part of the team, but there's a theme there. So when Seahorn's healthy, just take away the 4 games that they had early in the year last year. Yeah. But when he was healthy throughout the year, they were fine until that Dangerfield game, he wasn't healthy. And it's kind of the same thing now this year. Seahorn's banged up. They're going to have to figure out something. Tyson Jenkins, the coach's kid, usually plays receiver unless something's changed. Last year, he was the backup quarterback, so he came in. He's a good athlete, not a great thrower of the football, but he's a good athlete out there, and that's basically what Harmony does. They're going to run the ball and kind of hit you with the pass every now and again. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I also agree with Eddie's post where he said Harmony posts way too much information. I think they're putting way too much out on Facebook. That's just my personal opinion, because I don't think it's helpful to let everyone know, hey, our 2 tackles are out, our kicker's hurt, our quarterback's at, like, I don't think that's a good idea. But
I'm not a fan of that, because what does it say about the people taking their place? Do you really have confidence in them? So
that's how they're spinning. They're spinning it that way for the post, which I totally get. You're showing confidence in the kids that you have. I get that, but you can do that behind closed doors. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, you don't have
publicly.
to. Yeah. Now, I mean, like when you say something like, "Well, we're not doing so well because my quarterback is out," and it's like that dude that's playing quarterback right now may hear that, and he's like, "Well, man, that just goes to show he don't really have a lot of faith in me," So yeah, you're right. Me personally, I keep quiet. I don't say anything. I keep it all in house.
It's such a fine line as a coach, right? Like, you want to make sure. I mean, to me, I would almost feel like I was making an excuse, and I'm not saying that about Coach Jenkins. I don't want to hear you say that. I would have a hard time posting it. Now, do we have conversations? I mean, when we have our podcast every week, one of the things I talked about with Coach Rao this week is that we are finally getting healthy, and that we've played well even though we haven't been healthy. And to us, the spin is we've had a bunch of guys who we weren't expecting to play that have stepped in and played well. I mean, in our game Friday night, we had 2 linemen that we weren't expecting to play. We had a couple of defensive players we weren't expecting to play, and they stepped in and played well. And to me, that makes us better in the long run.
Deeper.
Yeah, and so it's almost like there's just such a fine line there between. But I would never put it out on Facebook. It's one thing for us to say it after the fact. It's one thing to talk about it after the game or whatever. But I'm not gonna. Even then, you will not hear us say, "Yeah, so and so's out for 6 weeks" or however long it is. I don't know. That's tough.
And I don't want this to get misunderstood. Like, what and you can go look at them. It's Harmony Eagle Football on Facebook. You can go look at them. Yeah. They're not like injury reports like our quarterback's out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Boom. It's not that. It's like, it doesn't even mention the players. It's like that one post said, we're out with our 2 starting tackles are out. So what do you do? Skill position players step up, and so it's it's that kind of stuff, but it's still putting that information out. Yeah. It's still putting that information out like, hey, we're without these guys. I don't like that.
I think for me, if it's like an interview and somebody asks, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's the social media aspect, because a lot of people run the social media when they're trying to defend something, or make an excuse about something. And so, and I'm not saying that coach is doing that, but it just feels like that to me. Right. And that's with anything. I look at socials and I'm always like, man, why are you putting that business out there?
Yeah.
Well, you
can't. But no, I have socials and I don't even say nothing on them.
You can't hear somebody's tone. You can't hear the conversation that's taking place there.
Very true.
And so it's different. But if what Kyle just said, I have no problem with that, man. Like,
that's what the posts are. Like, they're not. It's not like, woe is us, our players out. Like, it's more of, hey, we're without a kicker. So we have a receiver that's out here working extra after practice on kicks to help out our team. It's that type of stuff.
And in non-district, who cares if they know you're missing guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is what
that's
it
the
is.
truth. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Those games don't matter. Yeah.
All right.
Good
game
discussion,
3.
Guys. Look at us, huh?
Hopefully Eddie's happy.
Yeah. In game 3, we got Wascom versus Sabine. I had Sabine this one, guys, and they got the win over Wascom. I was just impressed with how Sabine has started the year. I know they haven't really played a super tough schedule, but they have, they were 3-1 and they're playing well. And for Sabine, I think they're off to a great start. Sabine hasn't been this powerhouse program here lately, but good start for Sabine. And I was impressed with this win over Wascom. What do you guys think about this one?
I think Sabine's off to a hot start this year. Their one loss to West Rusk. West Rusk is a good football team, but beating Spring Hill. I think Wascom, to me anyway, it seems like, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, Wascom was a powerhouse, and perennially they've been a powerhouse football program. And then, these past 2, 3, 4 years, they've kind of regressed a little bit, and I don't think they're the Wascom of old. Not taking anything away from Sabine, they still went there, or they still beat Wascom, but I just think Wascom's a little down this season, so I think that's why we're seeing kind of them struggling. But shout out to Sabine, you're right. Their football program has struggled in these past few recent years, and to see them off to a hot start, I'd like to see it.
I had Sabine in the game too, mainly because I do think Wascom is down. They lost to Redwater in week 1. That's not a good loss. They beat Pewitt. Now Sabine, as you mentioned, is hot. The spanking of Spring Hill in week 1 said a lot. I mean, there's a pretty significant size difference in those two schools. And also, look at what Spring Hill did this past week, beat Gladewater by 2 touchdowns. So Spring Hill has not played real well, but still a good win. I mean, Gladewater didn't play real well, but still a good win. But we're going to find out about Sabine this week, because I think Sabine and Bullard are going to meet up, and that's going to be – we're going to find out which of those two teams. I think Sabine and Bullard are this week, right?
Mount Vernon this week, I think. Yeah, it's Mount Vernon Friday. Sabine, okay. Mount Vernon.
Sorry, I was confused.
Yeah, that's still a tough one.
Well, maybe tougher one, Yeah, maybe tougher. So we'll see. But I think that they're a team that, man, they could get hot and win a few games, and you're talking about them being in the top 10 potentially. Or top 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
All right, game 4. You got the game that Professor didn't pick correct. We kind of gathered that from earlier, as Carlisle hasn't been kind to him. He said as ARP over Carlisle. Man, I had ARP, and I think Carlisle. We talked about this a few times. Just the numbers game with Carlisle is kind of that 2A Division 2 versus even the 3A Division 2. It doesn't sound like a whole lot of numbers difference, but it is when it comes to having players on the sideline. And ARP handed it to him, even almost as bad as Troop did the week before. So that ARP Troop game could be a lot better game than we may have thought to start the year off. But because they called that game, I think this game was called in the third quarter, so there was a lot of time left. So ARP's looking strong early. Schminke's got those guys going, and they've got a test this week against Tenaha. Guys, what do you think about this one?
ARP's impressive. ARP's off to a good start. They got my eye when they beat Joaquin in week 1. Then that loss to Garrison kind of surprised me, but Garrison's a really good football team. And then to come out and bounce back and like you said, in about 3 quarters, hang 42 on Carlisle. I'm impressed with ARP. I'm a fan of the ARP Tigers. I think they're rolling right now, and it is going to be a very tough test with Tenaha this week. I'll be interested to see how they do with that. I don't think Tenaha is as good as Garrison, but it'll be good to see kind of how ARP performs against Tenaha team. And for Carlisle, I don't know what's going on over there. I'm not sure what's happening with Carlisle. I don't know. I don't understand it. I hope they can figure it out and turn it around before district starts, but I'm not sure what's happening with Carlisle.
They're going to be just fine when district starts. New coach, right? They're trying to figure everybody out. And if you're ARP, you've played Joaquin and Garrison the first 2 weeks. Like, going to Carlisle was a little bit of a break, and that's not a knock on Carlisle, but they look at what they played the first 2 weeks. Yeah. So I think Carlisle, it's a number, like Brett said, it's a numbers game. It's tough to compete against those schools, even though it's one step up. When they get to district, they're going to be just fine, is my opinion. I don't think there's much to worry about over there. Kudos to them for playing the schedule they've played early on. I mean, in week 1, it was Harleton, who's a bigger school, and they won that one by 12. And then they go on the road to Troop and lose. They play ARP at home and lose. They'll be fine when the time comes. I really believe that.
I think it just shows how good they were the past couple of years, though, because they were winning those games a few years
ago.
Yeah,
they were winning them. And
well, I think it says more about ARP and Troop getting better, too.
It's true.
Yeah. Wasn't it Troop that had a kid that got injured for the season that was really good? And so that kind of put a damper on their season. Carlisle, what I think what bothers me the most is the amount of points that was scored between those last 2 games and what they were able to put up. I mean, against Troop, they only scored 15 points. Against ARP, it was only 19. But I kind of agree with what Jeremy is saying, that once they get in district, this might all change. There's some teams that I was looking at that are like 1 and 2, and they're slated to win their district. So uh, there's no reason to think that Carlisle couldn't turn it around. ARP is doing amazing right now. I think that they are. I don't want to say that they've got it figured out, but it feels like they do. It really does. When you think about now, we question Joaquin, but then you got the Joaquin win. Joaquin only scored 6 points, and then to go play Carlisle, and Carlisle only scored 19. Now Garrison, good team, they dropped 48 on them, but I feel like ARP is right where they want to be. I don't think they're. I don't. Yeah, I don't think they. I'm not gonna say that I don't think they'll have a problem with Tenaha. I don't think they fear Tenaha at all. Like I think they're walking to this game very confident.
I think they're going to win the game. Let me tell you about Carlisle. They're going to win this week They're going to win this week by 4 touchdowns. Carlisle will. I've seen Mildred on film. Vince, let me just tell you. So you saw us play against Life Oak Cliff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Life Oak Cliff lost to Mildred by 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first week of the season, and I'm just telling you, Carlisle's going to beat Mildred by at least 4 touchdowns on Friday night. I'm just telling you.
Wow.
You heard it first.
Okay. Yeah, you heard it from the coach.
And I haven't seen Carlisle. I'm just telling you, Mildred's not very good. They're going to get right this week. They're finally
Sounds like
playing
gospel to me.
good. Well,
Sounds like gospel to me.
Hey, sometimes it's a way to get right is to play somebody that can help you get right.
Amen.
Game 5, Hooks Winsboro, another good matchup, East Texas wise, and the Finney and crew got the win over Hooks. I had Winsboro and picked up another victory on this one, and guys, I when the score was low, I was concerned because we kind of talked about Winsboro's offense versus Hooks defense, but Winsboro was able to score enough to beat Hooks. Man, this was a good one. I'm sure our man Eddie's going to have some thoughts on this game because as the Hooks being up from his area. But I'm impressed with Winsboro. They're a tough team. They moved up this week on the poll for me. They're climbing on our poll here in Edison, and so Eddie's saying they called it no contest. I didn't see that.
Well, let me tell you something. If we turned the scoreboard on and there was a score, it was a contest. Sorry, Eddie. We know what the score was when they stopped playing. But I will say this. I've had Winsboro number 4 the whole year. I think Winsboro is really good. I think this says more about Hooks. KO, Brett, if you remember before the season started, I think Venture with us too. We talked about Hooks before the year and said, look at their first 3 games. Harmony, at Cooper, Winsboro. And we said, we'll believe in Hooks if they can win. Well, we really said if they finish 1 and 2, it's okay. They finished 2 and 1. They beat Harmony by 4. They go to Cooper, who we all think is a good football team, beat them by a touchdown. And they lose to Winsboro by a touchdown, who I think Kyler Finney is one of the best players in East Texas that we don't talk a ton about, but we do talk about. I think I'll be honest. I haven't had Hooks in my poll all year long. And even though they lose the game this week, I have them in my poll now at number 8 because you look at the body of work, and I think you have to recognize that and what they've done.
So, as always, Eddie's right. It was a no contest, but at the last score that I saw before they called it was 21-16. I believe Winsboro was on top of Hooks. Either way, I still think yes, Hooks has a very good football team. I think Hooks is going to score a lot of points this Friday night against Hawkins. I think old Keyshawn Wall's going to have a huge game for Hooks. But Winsboro, man, I'm a huge fan of Winsboro. I'm drinking the Red Raider juice out of Winsboro right now because I think they have a squad that can make a run. Now I'm not saying they're going to go to Jerry's World and bring home the trophy, but I do think they can make a 3 or 4 round deep run. It's going to be tough though. They got Malakoff on their side, so I think Winsboro and Malakoff are going to meet again in the playoffs. But
Whitesboro,
Burrow. It's a very tough region. It's a very tough region, but I think Winsboro will win their district. I think they're the best team in that district, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do in the playoffs after that.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Game 6. Tyler
I mean,
Hyman.
the game was called. I ain't got nothing to say. Hey, that's the nature of it, man. Can't do nothing about it.
In the NSN scoreboard, that was a Winsboro win. 'cause they were good.
there's no game.
Yeah,
called.
yeah.
Give me
Ain't no
a
need to
break.
argue. It is what it is.
Tyler High goes to 3-0. Guys, this was one of the games that I missed. I wasn't quite on board with Tyler High yet. I wanted to see him beat somebody of merit, and I think they're finally starting to show me that they're, I think Diggs talked about a little bit that they're a team on a mission this year, and that's playing well under new coach Woods. And man, I might not be going against Tyler High many more times this season. They're playing well, and so what did you guys think? Mesquite Horn was playing well going into this game.
Mm-hmm. My personal opinion is Mesquite Horn is still a good team. But I think, and I've said this before on the show, again, Tyler High was not bad last year. Those kids were just mentally not there. And new coach coming in, in the system he's implemented, it kind of woke these kids up, and now they're playing for him. They've always had the athletes, but they got the system to back it up now. So now they're a tough opponent. They're just hard to beat. And if you stupid enough to come in there and think that you're just gonna roll on them, well, you finna find out. It's that simple.
I'm with you guys. I thought they were a good football team, right? I think that what I said was I wanted to see them play up front. I wanted to see could they win at the line of scrimmage against a Horn team that has a couple of D1 guys up front, and they did. They scored 27 points. They hold Horn to just 12 and controlled the line of scrimmage. And they're 3-0. And I'm just telling you, it may be a while before they. They're in a tough district, right? But
yeah,
I'm happy for those guys. I'm happy for those kids, Vince. Like you talked about, to be in a situation now, to be successful, to win games, to be relevant again as a program in terms of the statewide recognition. I'm happy for them. And I won't pick against them any more times, Brett. I'm with you on that.
I think Tyler High. I got to see him week 2 against Legacy, that Rose City rivalry, and I was impressed with their fight and their grit in that game. Them being able to fight back, being down 14-0, come back and score 28 unanswered to win. Then beat a good Mesquite Horn team last week. Looking at their schedule, North Mesquite, McKinney North, Lancaster, West Mesquite, Lufkin, Longview looming on October 27th could be that Lufkin game the week before and then Longview right after that. I think those 2 games are going to be the games that kind of decide that seeding in that district.
Don't forget Lancaster.
Out there.
Don't forget
Lancaster too. Yeah, so that stretch of those 3 games, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for
the district's very tough. Overall.
It is. But I believe in Coach Woods, and I like what Coach Woods has going on at Tyler High, and excited to see what the Lions can do this year. And as I say every week, go Cujo.
I don't know if Lufkin and Tyler High both make the playoffs, guys. I think that might be. I think one of those teams misses. I don't know.
Well, let's see what Lufkin does Friday against Longview, and then I'll come back to you on that because yes, Lufkin's 3-0, but.
Well, I'm not saying which team it's going to be. I'm just thinking. Because Lancaster Longview is kind of the head of the class as of right now in that district. So you've only got 2 spots left. That's going to be tough for them both to get in. So I could see them one or the other. I just don't know if I see at this point seeing them both get in.
That could be an elimination game on the 20th.
And I think that very well may be.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Eddie. Lufkin's not winning Friday, but I'm just saying if they play them close and play well, and we give them a moral victory, and then they can build on that throughout the season.
A close game shows are good, Kyle? Is that what you said?
Absolutely.
No, not this guy. But I'll say this. You better look at where those games are, because historically, if you're Cujo and you're as good as they are and they're playing well, you don't want to come to Rose and play them.
Well, the Longview one's in Longview.
Well, I'm not even worried about the Longview one as much, but the Lufkin game, and even
Lufkin's at home at the Rose.
Yeah. You better bring a lunch when you get there.
Better strap up.
I mean, we call those double strappers, right? You got to get both of them on.
Oh, all right.
We'll see what Longview's made of.
Yeah.
I know Longview's tough, but I don't know. A year in, a year out, you start to see, the cracks sometimes with some teams. I'm not ready to just give Longview. I should. I feel like I should, right? But I don't want to give them the kind of respect that I give people like Carthage yet.
I don't think you can because they haven't won, 10 state championships.
Absolutely. So I don't know. I'm not gonna say Lufkin's gonna beat them, but I don't know if they're gonna run away with it either. I don't think Longview gonna run away with it. I don't know. I could be wrong though. We're about to find out.
We'll find out. That's why we line them up.
Exactly.
About 50 hours, we're gonna know.
Hey Vince, you can see highlights of that game Friday night on the Red Zone, shot by yours truly in the interview.
Starring who?
Starring KO, Mr. Red Zone.
Mr. Red Zone. Here we go.
Well, since he brought it up, they won't let you wear your hat on TV, KO.
Mm-mm.
Oh man.
Well. Let me just say, I haven't been told I can't do anything, but I also don't want to do it and then get in trouble. So
it just took me a minute to realize who you were.
I know. Without my receding hairline, that's why I don't. That's why I'll always wear hats. Yeah. But I can't. So
that's a nice hat you got there too.
Oh, thanks, man. I know a guy. But also, like, I'm letting the beard grow out a little bit. I'm a little nervous because I don't know. So I think it's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, if you don't know, then you don't know, right?
That's right.
How long does your makeup take when you get ready to go in the studio?
No makeup. I come in sweaty right off the field.
Wow. You're getting
bro. I know
getting you.
it's bad. Like and I'm only 31, guys. Like this is bad.
Youngster here.
KO, we're going to start calling him LeBron or something. I don't know.
Here's what I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start wearing a headband when I come on the show, and it's just gonna start going back with me.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Game 7, Sulphur Springs, Hallsville. This one surprised me, guys. Sulphur Springs gets the win. I had Hallsville in this one. Hallsville's kind of struggled early, but Sulphur Springs didn't look good either to me early, but they were able to beat Hallsville in this one, guys. What'd you guys think?
Well, I had Sulphur Springs. I picked them at home in one of those, close game. You don't really know, how do you go about that? Hallsville was 1-2. They lost to Terrell and barely beat Henderson. Sulphur Springs had beat a bad Jacksonville team, lost to Mount Pleasant. Went with the home team, got lucky, and I'll take it.
Somebody's got to win, right?
Somebody had to win the game. That is true. Well, maybe apparently not, because apparently if it's Lightning, you can just say, "Hey, we're not playing tonight," even though we just spent 2 hours doing it.
Oh man.
Yeah, Mount Pleasant is really good, so I don't know if I hold it against Sulphur Springs like that. I don't know, man. They were good last year. They're 2-0 right now. I'm sorry, 2-1. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of Hallsville.
How good they are because they've beat Hallsville, which we're about, and then they beat the Jacksonville game. We don't know how really good.
Jacksonville. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
We know. Anybody else?
James said, "Nah, I ain't with that. Nah, I'm gonna tell it like it is."
Anybody else? Who'd you guys have on that one?
I don't remember. That's why I wrote them down this time. I don't remember. There's not a way
I did write mine down, but I wrote it on I wrote it on a napkin and then I threw it away.
We can't. We need to work on
that.
We
need to work on that. Where we can go back and look at our picks.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember who I picked, but I wrote them down this time.
That's a really good suggestion. I know a guy that maybe can work.
Okay. All right. Cool. I don't remember who I picked. I think I picked Sulphur. I'm not.
Actually, I can look and see who you picked. So
okay.
Uh-oh. So you better be honest from now on.
I really don't picked Sulphur Springs too.
I think I did though.
Kyle had Hallsville in this one.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I could change my argument for that. Listen, so the reason I picked Hallsville,
Hallsville had some injuries.
Vince, you also had Hallsville. Everyone had Hallsville.
I did.
Mr. Hubbard.
God, what was I thinking?
I'll tell you what you were thinking, Vince. Let me help you out here. So what I was thinking is Hallsville lost to I think I don't know anything about them, but I'm going to assume a pretty good Terrell team lost to Hallsville, or Hallsville lost to them. Then they beat Henderson. I don't think Henderson's as bad as saying that they only beat them by 7. I don't think Henderson's a bad football team. And then so I was like, well, you know what? Kind of like you said, Jeremy, or the opposite of what you said. I'm like, you know what? Sulphur's at home, but I think Hallsville's the better team, and I was completely wrong. So that's what happened to us, Vince.
It happens, man. That's okay.
Oh, okay. That's what happened. That's what I'm gonna go with. He's right.
All right. I wish we had Corey on tonight for this next game, as Kilgore beat Pine Tree, the mighty Pine Tree Pirates, on a game that was finished on Saturday, 18-0. I had Kilgore. I wasn't anywhere. I didn't thought Pine Tree had a chance in this game. It was a little closer than I thought for a while, but then Kilgore reset on Saturday and just kind of put it to him. I get maybe that's why he didn't come tonight. Maybe he didn't want to talk about his Pine Tree team.
Pine Tree. Let me defend Corey real quick. He didn't say that Pine Tree was better. He just kept saying that Pine Tree are better than we think they are. And after that game, I thought about his pick. I'm sure I picked Kilgore. If that thing says I picked Pine Tree,
you picked Pine Tree. No, I'm just kidding.
Ain't no way. Ain't no way. But it makes me question, like, man, like, is he right? Like,
Corey,
is Pine Tree really better than we think they are?
Corey, for the record, did pick Pine Tree. So he picked them. Not only did he think they
were,
he picked them to beat Kilgore.
Pick them. But he did say he thought that they were better than what we think they are as a whole. Because collectively, the rest of us didn't agree with that at all. We all were kind of like, nah, not really. Pine Tree is Pine Tree.
We'll know how good they are when they enter district play here in a week.
Yeah.
I think listen, Pine Tree's had one winning season in the past 5 years. So I think a winning season at this point is a successful season for Pine Tree. But Kilgore, man, they're good. My only concern right now with Kilgore is they're not scoring a ton of points. And you would think with as good of a team as they are, that we believe they are, that they would be putting up more points. But we saw with the Jets on Monday night, you ain't got to put up a bunch of points to win. Like, I mean,
no, you don't.
If you have a great defense, if you have a great defense, then you can win a lot of games.
KO, let me, Mr. Red Zone, let me explain this to you. This is what I like to call my boa constrictor theory.
Okay.
Hold on.
So
I want to write this down. Hold on. Boa
what they do is they strangle these offenses, right? Yeah. Until they eventually give up. You don't have to score a lot of points, right?
I agree.
You just have to make them believe that it ain't working for them.
Coach Hubbard, I need you to.
That's all you have to do is break their confidence.
The boa constrictor defense.
Don't go out there telling them that. They gonna look at you like, what are you talking about?
I'm gonna tell you, we got our own pretty good defense, but I like the theory.
Yeah, but that's what they're doing. They're just
you need that sign.
They're just strangling people, right?
Something.
And so I think that's what you're seeing out of them. They don't have to score a lot of points. And when you see teams who can, like Gilmer, who can put up some numbers, play them, and then all of a sudden they can't do it, it's because they run into that brick wall, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, I'm tired. Like how long are you gonna do that? How long are you gonna do that all night?
I need to address Jake here. Okay, Jake is a Lindale fan, so of course he is going to say Pine Tree is stout because they ran all over Lindale this year.
Pine Tree hasn't been blown out. Like
no. I'm saying they blew out.
They played Van. They played Van, and then they played Lindale, and then they played Kilgore.
And then they got beat by 18 by Kilgore. But like Jake saying, it was a 3-0 game. I don't think Pine Tree's a bad team. I just think once they get into district play, and they're going to have to face the Texas High, White House, NAC, Mount Pleasant, Marshall, Hallsville, all of them. then that's when we'll really see how good Pine Tree is. I don't think Pine Tree's bad.
That's a good
I don't think they're a
point. I didn't
playoff
think
team,
about
though.
what their district looked like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this.
Here we go.
Let's
Here we
go.
Pine Tree loses to Van by a touchdown on the road in week 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's look at what Van's done. They beat Pine Tree. They lost to Chapel Hill by 22. Played Chapel Hill closer than anybody else. You guys were at the Gilmer game. It wasn't as close as the sports bed you told me. All right. And then Van goes on the road and beats Lindale. Then in week 2, Pine Tree comes from behind to beat Lindale. Okay. They were down in that game by what? I was watching the Red Zone. Y'all talked about this, or somebody's actually, it was a bad pregame show. We won't talk about where they came from, but it wasn't Red Zone because Red Zone's really good. But they come from behind and they beat Lindale. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they lose to Kilgore 18-0. And Kilgore, while they are a great defense, has been scoring points as well, right? And they held Kilgore 18. I'm going to say this right now: Pine Tree's making the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. Texas High's going to win the district.
See, that's what I'm getting at. I'm starting to think that I feel like with what you saying, Jeremy, what Corey said last week, and what I saw 18-0 in my mind, I'm like, they may not be that bad. They may just they just dealing with a tough schedule up front. But by the time district gets here, they may make a run.
I'm just not sold on it yet. I think they're better than they have been. I think they're better than they have been. I'm just not sure how good.
They can finish 4th. Are they better than Marshall, better than Hallsville? I think right now we could say so. Nacogdoches? We'll see about Nacogdoches. I don't know.
That whole district, honestly, I see Texas High and White House in one level, and then everybody else is just kind of on a pretty, I wouldn't say completely level playing field, but they're all pretty close. I think anybody, of course, we saw last year how that anybody can eat anybody in that district. I don't know that it's as, I don't think we'll see anything like that.
What? I agree with you, Jeremy. Looking at the district right now, they're playing for that 4th spot.
I mean, Mount Pleasant's 3-0, but they barely beat Liberty Ilo on the road. They, 14 points. They win by 13 at Silver Springs. I'm just going to call it. I think Pine Tree. Listen, I enjoyed hearing their coach talk. I heard him on the TV or the radio that day, or maybe on social media. I don't know where it was. Heard him talk, and just the things he's saying, I can get behind it. And we're going to find it. We'll find out more about them as we go along, right? But I think they have some talented athletes. I think that it's a great coaching staff, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right.
But I did pick Kilgore to win.
Yeah.
And get it right.
So
they're going to be fine.
The next one here, Game 9, Lindale Van, another classic. We got somebody that was live there on the field for that one. Mr. Red Zone, tell us about the Lindale Van game from the sideline there.
I mean, another classic in the Lindale Van rivalry books. It was a fun game, man. It was a real fun game. The second play of the game, Van picked off Lindale's Clint Thurman, and then turned around and picked off Van's quarterback, Jackson Moffitt. There was a few fumbles in that game. Like there was a little bit of everything. There was big plays, 60-yard runs. We had a guy do a pirouette in the middle of the field and score on one of them. So really fun game to watch. Van's got a really good football team. Lindale, we talked about it on Sunday, I think. Lindale's defense, man, it's
suspect, man.
I
know I said something earlier about that.
Well,
I was wrong. I was thinking about the year before.
Well, that's why I said to you in the preseason when we were talking, and you said something. I said, "Well, Vince, hold on now. Let me tell you."
I don't know what I was talking about then. Because I was thinking about that year that we struggled with them, and they just kind of their defense was in our backfield like every play. That's what I was remembering. But you refresh my memory. The year prior to this one, they struggled with the defense last year. So
remember that game Chapel Hill put up? What was it, 79 points?
I forgot all about. It's like
how do you forget what it is about
it? Even the year, because Lindale makes me so I get so irritated about Lindale. It's like it's not enough. You beat them. We beat them like you said, 70 something to whatever. It ain't enough. I'm gonna have to do that every year for the next 5 years before I get over it. Because they've been doing that to us, man. Them and Kilgore. Same thing with Kilgore. I want Chapel Hill to go in there and run over Kilgore again. I can't let Kilgore beat us not one more time. I can't stand it.
Man. Whoa.
I'm sorry. Just one win from one of them two teams, and it's like it don't matter how many games we win after
calm
that.
down, Vince. We're going to keep that for Friday night. I need that kind of that commentary Friday night as we're doing the next coaches chapter. So
listen, even when you go back to Lindell's state championship run season where they made it to the state title game, they gave up a lot of points in the playoffs that year. They gave up 56 to Needville in the second round, gave up 42 to Kilgore in the fourth round, gave up 49 to Argyle. I mean, yeah, that's Argyle, but they still gave up a lot of points that season too. The difference that year was they had a stud on offense that could that could tote the rock and helped them out a lot. So
what was his name? Like Brandon Jordan's or Jacob
Jordan Jenkins. Don't disrespect him like that, Vince.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Man, listen, that dude, and much love to him. I hope he is getting everything he wants out of life. But boy, he wore me out, man.
Yeah.
Golly. Like Brett remember, we was watching this dude go up the middle of the field whenever he wanted to.
Part of it was the defense.
That's why I'm mad, Eddie.
We were playing Matador defense where you just, let them go right up the middle.
Look, he had the best high school game I've ever seen a kid have before, and I was lucky to call the game. It was against Needville, that 70-56 game. He scored 9 touchdowns, 8 rushing touchdowns, and a kickoff return for a touchdown all in one game. Dude was a stud. But yeah, Lindell's defense has always been suspect. Van's got a really good football team. We talked about their district earlier. They're going to have a tough district row. Van, Carthage Center, I think. Though we'll talk maybe Bullard. We got to see what they do a little more. That's a tough district, though. Really tough.
Yeah, don't forget about Rusk. Jeremy, you'll offend Jeremy if you don't mention Rusk.
Rusk did lose last week, so
watch out.
I was just saying.
He's thinking about it carefully.
No disrespect. I'm just saying.
I like my job, KO. I'm going to say this: we got to be consistent in how we're saying this, right? We just talked about some teams. We've talked about some teams tonight that are losing close games, and what does that mean for them? And you look at Lindell, and they beat Kaufman week 1. They lose to a Pine Tree team that we just talked about is better than they have been in a while. They lose a close one to Van at home, and they got to. I mean, are you going to completely count them out against Gilmer this week at home?
I'm not counting them out, but I do think they lose.
That's going to be a high-scoring game.
I think they lose, though. I just think Gilmer has more athletes.
It's a pick 'em this week, and I picked Gilmer to win the game. But I'll say this: the same coaches that are there. I mean, the defensive issue. I haven't been a Lindell follower for the last few years, so I don't know what their history has been defensively. There are a lot of programs in the state of Texas. There are a ton of programs in East Texas that don't put a premium on defense, and they win a bunch of games. I don't think you can win championships that way, but I think you can win a bunch of games that way if you just worry about offense. So I don't know if that's Coach Cochran's MO. I don't know if that's what they do, but if they've been giving up points like that for years, then maybe they're just let's just outscore people.
And Coach Cochran was my freshman year, Coach Cochran was there in Lindell, and he was he was a defensive coach, like a linebackers coach or something. So he's a defensive coach at heart. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he's not thrilled about them giving up all these points. I don't think he enjoys that.
I'm sure they're looking into trying to.
Yeah, but it's been going on for years, man. Like you got to figure something out. Play zone instead of man, or vice versa. Something, I don't know.
You know what? And as much as we say this about Lindell. I mean, Lindell, they're gonna go to playoffs. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
they're gonna make.
They'll be in the playoffs.
So it right now what we saying ain't even gonna matter because they're gonna go in the playoffs and they may go 2, maybe 3 deep.
But are they?
Well, careful. Palestine's pretty good this year. Henderson maybe improved.
I still think that
we'll get to that. We'll get to the Palestine.
Athens just beat a good Rush team.
Yeah.
I still think Lindell makes the playoffs.
All right. Here's what I say. The faster the other team scores, the faster you get the ball back, man. So always remember that.
All right.
Good philosophy.
Let's talk about Game 10. The game Vince and I called Friday night in Brook Hill as Grace beat Brook Hill 23-19 in a thrilling game. I'm just gonna hand it off to the coach and Coach, I know you guys played hard.
It's your chance to rant. Say what you want. Say what you said Friday night.
I mean, you got to be proud of your kids. I mean, both teams played really hard, and like it was back and forth. And honestly, it was who could make the least mistakes, and then who kind of capitalized off them.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing. We got beat, you know. I mean, I'm not one of those that ever says, well, we gave them the game. But I think when you look at the score and if you watch the game and you saw the way it happened, our defense, I'm okay, look, could we go beat Longview or Carthage? No, we couldn't, right? But I'll put our defense on the field against almost anybody and give us a chance to stop you, right? Eddie, you did actually. If you were watching, yeah, you might have been Eddie. Anyway, but the point is this: you cannot shoot yourself in the foot in a rivalry game of any kind. You can't you can't have mental mistakes. You can't have physical mistakes, and we just made too many of them in crucial times. Am I proud of our guys? I'm proud of our guys. But that's a game that's a game you want to win every year, right? That's a game that I'll be honest with you. I told our guys this before the game. If you lose this one, you will think about it until you play them again. I mean, that's the way it's going to be.
That's the way it goes.
I thought take the winning and losing side out of it for me. I thought it was one of the better games I've ever been a part of as a coach in terms of the competitive nature of the game, the way the game was played. I thought that it was kind of Coach Rao put it best on our podcast this week. It was we took the momentum and they took it from us, and then we took it from them, and then they took it from us, and it was that way all night long.
It was like it was like a roller coaster.
It was.
I mean, it was like a emotions back and forth. Like, you know, they made a play, you guys made a play, they made a play, and it's like just back and forth. And honestly, it was that way until the whistle blew at the end. I mean, I mean,
and even then, like the first couple of scores came off of mistakes that were made by both teams, and the defenses went back to kind of controlling the games a little bit. You know, there was big plays made, but then they didn't score, and that was happening both sides. And then you get around the end of the third quarter and the fourth, and it just took off. And it was like, okay, now they gonna do it. You know, I hate that Brook Hill lost that game. I was really thinking they had it.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, I mean, especially towards the end. There was one point where me and Brett were both standing up in the booth the last probably 8 minutes just watching. At one point I got quiet because I just got so focused and locked in. Defensively, I said this, you guys played great. There was a time when Grace had a moment where they could have just went up and took the game away. And they were right there at the red zone. You know, like they were right there. And Brook Hill just held them right. I mean, just dead stop. Just started pushing them back. I mean, you don't see that often out of a high school team. You know, you don't see defensive stands like that. And then they kicked the field goal, and didn't it hit like the upright or something like that?
Yeah. You know,
and it was like, man, and it just, and all of a sudden it's just like, you start to believe it. Like, nah, they finna win this. They're about to win this. This is how they playing right now. They about to win this, you know.
Yep.
But Grace, credit to Grace.
Yep.
They defense got back on the field. They had to deal with Brook Hill making some big plays, and then they recovered. Yep. And so I told Brett at the end of that game, I said, you know, when we came into this, I said somebody got to win and somebody got to lose.
Yep.
You know, these are two good teams. It's unfortunate, but that's what we come here for.
Well, you know, and you're right. I mean, we did a good job containing, you know, one of the better backs at our level for sure with Grant Turner. He had 104 yards on the day, and 50 of them came on one play, you know. So other than that, we held him to about 20 carries for about 50 yards, so pretty close in there. But you're right. The first drive of the game, they moved the ball down the field. They missed the field goal. They did it again in the second half. I thought we hit a couple of big plays. But, you know, you give them the ball inside the 5 on a muff punt, you know, that's a gift, you know. You know, we missed I don't even remember. We had our chances. You know, there's no doubt about that. It was a great game. I don't know how they'll fare in there. I don't know a lot about Grace's district. Honestly, it's not something I follow because it doesn't pertain to us. But they're going to be tough for anybody because they have some dudes the same way we have some dudes. But I thought it was a great game, and we'll recover. We'll be fine. You know, we were really focused last week, super focused. I think we'll be super focused again this week. We got we go to White Oak this week, and you can't let one game beat you twice. So we got to make sure we play this week. And then we got Atlanta coming to town in 2 weeks. So if we dwell on that one for too long, we're going to really be in a bind. But it was good. It was just a good game, and I hate we lost it, but there are some positives for us out of that loss as well. But not the most important one, KO, which is the win in the column.
Well, listen, I was gonna say, obviously, I wasn't at the game like all y'all were, but Grace put up 61 in week 1 and 62 in week 2, and your defense held them to 23. I think that's phenomenal. I mean, for a team that's putting up 60 plus, and then you hold them to below half of that, that's great. I think Brook Hill's going to be fine, but like you said, don't let one game beat you twice. You got to put that Grace game behind you. It's over and done with. You can't go back to it now, and onward and focus on White Oak. Because if you overlook White Oak, they can sneak up and bite you, and that's not what you want to have happen with Atlanta coming to town the week after that. So I think Brook Hill can right the ship this week against White Oak, and then it should be a fun one against Atlanta in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Honestly, our mindset is, and I think any team's mindset would be this: is not only do you want to not let them sneak up on you, you kind of want to go bury them.
Yeah. Prove a point.
We got some frustration to take out, and that's kind of been our approach, or at least that's been our guys' approach. They have a new coach, right, who's been successful in some other places, and he'll figure it out at some point. I liken this game to a few years ago when Brownsboro's new coach came in, and they were 0-3 when they came to our place, and they put it on us. Their new coach got it figured out right there just in that week, and it was week 4 again. So we'll see what happens. Eddie, don't worry, man. We're working on it. But we just had some. It was a great game. I hate losing, but it was, as a fan and as a broadcaster, I'm sure it was a great one to be a part of. And you can go back and watch it, Brett, if they want to go back and watch it.
As many times as you want, and you can look for Jeremy on the sideline doing his penguin dance.
All right, so the penguin dance is one thing, but I have a bone to pick with you two. You had to call me out for being mad at some point in the game, and then it was one thing to call me out, but it's another one to say. But it doesn't take much to get him fired up anyway. So I don't really
I didn't say that. That was Brett that said that. I did see you mad, and I saw Coach Rao was hot too about something. I think it was right before the half, and man, he just, you could tell he was giving he was giving the ref a earful. I was like,
he needed it. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you. That was the worst crew I've ever been a part of. I have seen a lot of things. That was the worst officiating crew I've ever been a part of. And listen, not just for us, for them, for everybody. I'm going to be honest.
They must have. They must have taken our advice, Jeremy. We told them when there wasn't any refs, in wrestling, they just waved somebody in with a shirt from the back.
Yeah.
So we were telling them they must have done that, and that's why you ended up with that crew.
So in TAPS, you're allowed to use this other organization called Whistleblowers. They're at a DFW, right? And this is who we had.
It's an odd name.
It is. The white hat Friday night is the president of the chapter. Okay. That ought to tell you a lot because you guys were there and you saw it.
Yeah.
So two things stick out to me, and I'm going to write a book about dumb things officials say when I retire because I don't want them to retaliate against me until then. But there was a personal foul. I don't know if you guys remember this. They had a personal foul called against them. We were on the 19-yard line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the rule inside the 30 on a personal foul is what?
Half a distance.
Half the distance to the goal.
So we were on the 19. The ball gets spotted at the 11. And this is when me and Coach Rao were really hot, Vince, by the way, if you want to know what happened. The ball gets spotted at the 11. And we're like, hey, man, that ain't right.
Nah, that's not right. Yeah.
He said, Coach, it's right. I said, no, it's not. So I'm sitting arguing with White Hat for the next 3 plays. And our offensive coordinator, Coach Agnew, is the math teacher. And he's out there literally yelling mathematical formulas to the guy like 19 divided by 2 is 9.5. So at some point I said, Coach, man, that's not right. He said, Coach, if you'd had the ball on the 20, where would you have got it? I said, the 10. He goes, you're right. He goes, so since you're on the 19, you get it on the 10 and a half. And I said,
what?
Oh, my gosh.
What? That's what happened. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, because I saw Coach Rao. He was hot. And I was like, man, he ain't gonna let it slide. You know, he wasn't gonna
either.
let it make it. I was like, man,
Oh.
dang.
There's a lot more I could say, but either way, it was bad for them too. They got stories they could tell. They had a kid get ejected, and the official later on said, "We didn't really see him do anything. We just didn't like what he looked at us." I was like,
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Hey, so let's talk
That was
polls.
the
Let's talk polls, guys, 'cause, we've kind of gotten a little off track here. 6A, 5A. Poll time here. We're gonna start at the bottom. We have White House staying at 5. Lufkin slips from 3 to 4. Texas High is now down to rank 3. Tyler High moves up to 2, and Longview at number 1. Thoughts on this?
I mean, I
Sound about right to you guys?
I don't have anything to say about it.
problem
Really.
with
you know, I had the same 5. I had Texas High at 2 and Lufkin at 3. I still have Tyler at 4. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's hard to discount what Texas High has done so far. I
Yeah.
still think they should be number 2, but Tyler's on the rise. I have no problem with them being up number 2, but I had them at 4.
It'll eventually shake itself out. So I mean,
I had Lancaster in mind.
Is that
But-
East Texas?
Corey,
I
is
keep
that
putting
Corey
him up
voting?
there. I don't care, man. I keep putting them in there. I feel like we should be covering them, so I keep them in there.
I tell you what, Vince, you go get a sponsor.
You know
out
it's
there, we'll
funny.
do some games.
I thought about because I
Yeah.
was looking at my other poll and I was like Lancaster, and I was like, wait a minute. Technically, we don't really cover them, but I was like, man, why though? Why? And
'Cause
so
they're
I
in
was like, nah.
Dallas.
I'm just like,
That's a Digsy. That's a Digsy school.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it upon myself to send out a list of schools that
Send
are
me
eligible for the
a
rankings.
map.
These schools, boys, are eligible for the rankings.
Yeah.
So who'd you
I
have
can
out
look.
of the top? So if you had Lancaster, which one of those top 5 did you not have in there, Vince? Just curious.
Lufkin. I didn't have Lufkin in there. That's what it was. Yeah. And now thinking about it, it was like, okay, yeah, I would have took Lancaster out and put Lufkin in.
I think the 5 right now are pretty
Solid.
easy as far as the solid 5. I think that's why we went to 5 in this.
Come on,
Oh, now there may be
down
that
so I'll
5,
remember this
4
next time.
spot could kind of move in and out. I think right now, you know, Longview's pretty solid. Texas High is pretty solid, and Tyler High
Yeah.
right now. I mean,
They're riding high, so yeah.
I
until
think
they
what would make
play each other, are gonna.
what would make this poll interesting would be to put a number 6. That would be the interesting part every week to see who number 6 would be, because I'd have
Who
to go
number 6
Pine Tree
is.
at this point.
Yeah, well,
Ooh, yeah.
Mount Pleasant did receive a couple of votes as well.
Probably from Corey.
No, Kyle voted for Mount Pleasant. Kyle, give us your argument. Jeremy's saying Pine Tree in there. You got Mount Pleasant.
I needed 15.
He ain't got no argument. He needed a team. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, KO. That's why he's my man. Hey, I don't care about them rankings. Get them papers out the way. Let's play ball.
Listen, though, I'm going to help Kyle out because our Tyler Paper correspondent from Edison also had Mount Pleasant at number 5. So Brandon,
Okay.
hey,
So
Brandon,
if he did it, then he knows what he's talking about.
so that's-
Okay.
there you go. So that makes you feel
You got
better.
some
Kyle.
good company with that.
Yeah. All right.
Good
Well,
company.
Who'd you not have in there, KO? That's what I want to know.
I don't want to say it. Don't even say it, Brett. Don't even say
Who
it.
is
I need to know.
Don't.
I need to
You
know.
don't. Can we move on to 4A?
It's
Can we move
probably
on to 4A?
let's
Is
just
it
say
Texas
it's going
High?
to make Eddie angry.
Let's just
that's
move
all
on
I'm
Oh
to
gonna
my
say.
gosh.
Let's just
Oh
move on to
my
4A.
gosh.
Let's move on to 4A. 4A, what do we have? Same thing as last week, Chapel Hill number 1 still, or what we got?
Oh man,
So
Kyle's
big
like
gulp,
that.
eh?
Kyle's like that heel in the Texarkana area. He's a heel up there. He comes down here and he's a face. He's a heel.
Yep. Yeah, like I
Hey,
said,
but
Texas
I
High.
have a Texarkana school in my 4A.
Okay. All right, here we go. 4A. Start from the bottom. Number 10. New into the rankings this week is Bullard at number 10.
Okay.
Okay.
Brownsboro also new into the rankings at number 9 this week.
Okay.
Sulphur Springs at 8. Gilmer at 7. Van at 6. Center at 5. Kilgore 4. Pleasant Grove 3. Carthage 2. And Chapel Hill 1. Pretty solid there. I think to me the top 5 are pretty easy right now. Chapel Hill, Carthage, Pleasant Grove, Kilgore, and Center. I think that's probably correct with Van. I mean, they've shown a lot right now. They're kind of sitting right there at 6. Gilmer's a tough rank for me because they haven't played. I mean, they're 1-2, but their schedule is very difficult. So we'll know a little more about them this week when they play.
I kind of altered mine. I flipped a few teams around as I was watching. I was looking at what Max Prep was ranking people, and I kind of didn't agree with them. And then I went back and looked at schedules and stuff, and I was like, you know what? You really can't. You can't really throw Gilmer too low because they played a pretty good schedule so far. You know, like I mean, Chapel Hill and Van. I mean, yeah, I moved them up. I moved them a lot higher than I think I had them before.
I dropped Gilmer a spot. I had Gilmer 4th last week, and I dropped him to 5th this week. I flip-flopped them and Kilgore. I put Kilgore at 4, and now Gilmer's at 5. I still have center behind Gilmer. The only reason I have center behind Gilmer is because I think Gilmer's strength of schedule right now is
that's what I was arguing. Yeah, and because Max Prep put Van over center too, and I was like, really?
I'm not gonna go that far, but
but again, I started looking at. I tried to see it from their point of view, and so I kind of altered what I did there, and nothing against center,
right.
But I just think looking at the schedule, if you gave that schedule to Gilmer might have been 3-0.
Yeah,
maybe.
I had the same top 7. I had the same top 7 in order. Brownsboro, I had at number 8. I had Athens at 9 and Bullard at 10. And I only had Brownsboro ahead of Athens because they played, and Brownsboro beat them by a point. Otherwise, I think Athens had a great win last week against Rusk. Rusk I had at number 7 or 8 last week. And so for Athens to beat them in a good
was that painful
game.
Was that painful to have to drop your Rusk Eagles out of the top 10 there?
No, man. They don't love me as much as I love them, and it is what it is, Vince.
So
I got a new home.
Here's my surprise is where I had. So with all these teams doing so well early and at things working itself out, I had Gilmer at 10. And because you win 1 game out of 3, and Paris, to me, when the Paris game is what did it for me. I don't think Paris is very good. I think they're okay, but Gilmer played pretty even with them. And so I bumped Gilmer down. Now they beat Lindale this week, and I can move them back up, but I did drop them down just because you have teams like Brownsboro and Bullard they've won every game in front of them, and that's all you can do on your schedule. Eventually, they're going to play the Carthages and things of the world, and so it'll all work itself out. But I did bring Gilmer down just because they have lost a couple of games.
I also gave Athens and Palestine some love. I put them at 9 and 10 in my poll at the bottom.
I only brought in Brownsboro on mine. I had brought in Brownsboro just because I thought with their schedule they played, they had a little harder schedule than Bullard, who is also 3-0 in my opinion. So I brought Brownsboro in there for the top 10. That was my only team that entered that wasn't in there.
Okay.
Yeah, this poll is going to be very interesting. The bottom 6 through 10 are going to kind of be shuffling themselves around unless there's just
they'll move around a lot.
Crazy upset up top. I think we're gonna keep that the way it is. Okay, all right. Let's go. This next poll is always interesting. 3A, 2A, and taps. All right, at spot number 10, we have into the poll this week. Cooper makes its debut in the poll this week at number 10. Hooks is now at 9. Garrison at 8. Mount Vernon at 7. Beckville at 6. Dangerfield at 5, Troop at 4, Winsboro 3, Malakoff 2, and Timpson remains at 1. Thoughts, guys?
Craziness. So Dangerfield loses at Timpson by a touchdown, and they fall. Winsboro, okay, if you want to argue Winsboro, Dangerfield, okay, I can live with that argument. You want to argue Troop and Dangerfield? Come on, man. If Troop and Dangerfield played this week, Dangerfield would boat race them. It wouldn't even be a close game. Okay. Mm-hmm. Second of all, how do we not have ARP in the rankings at this point? Right? Like, what do you want to argue against ARP? They beat Joaquin, they dominate Carlisle, and they lose to Garrison, who we have in here at in the poll as well. I don't know.
I think it's the parity that does it on this poll, Jeremy. There's such parity down at the bottom. I mean, you've got teams that receiving votes this week. You have Garrison, Beckville, Bullard, Alba Golden Revolt. They're 3-0. They haven't allowed a point this year, which is kind of
Okay, look at the opponent. Forget that.
Yeah.
Okay, Crossroads. Crossroads is 3-0 too. We want to put Crossroads in here.
talk to your boy Brandon Ogden. He was the one that put Alba Golden in the
I
poll.
understand. That's because he had a little feature on Alba Golden in the paper this week, so he had to show him some love.
He had to
They
do
already
right by
hate
him.
me in Alba, so
KO said I can say what I want now.
Yeah.
Overton's 3-0. We put Overton in there. And come on. I mean, I get it. But to me, I can live with Art not being in there. Whatever. I think that's wrong. But you want to put Dangerfield at 5 after losing by a touchdown on the road at Timpson? The best. We're crowning Timpson already. I mean, I don't
I had
know.
Dangerfield at 4. I voted Dangerfield at 4.
I have him at 3.
I had Dangerfield at 5.
I had him at 5 also.
You guys.
So me and Jeremy, we had.
But that's because for me, I still had Beckville up high, so I kept Beckville up there.
Hold on a second.
I never took Beckville down.
So where
And then I think I put Cooper up there.
I'm trying to see where
is what I did.
Brandon had them, because that's going to be. Let's see what his poll looks like.
By the way, they lost by
Okay,
a touchdown without their quarterback.
Here we go. So everybody can, as at Brandon O Sports, go tweet Brandon. He did not have Dangerfield in his poll.
Time out. So he put Alba Golden in, but not Dangerfield. Well, then his poll's skewed. Throw it out. Throw it out.
So that's why
Throw it out. If Alba Golden and Dangerfield played on a field today, Dangerfield would hang 70.
So let's this is what Brandon has. He has Timpson, Malakoff, Winsboro, Mount Vernon, Troop, Lovelady, Grace Community, New Diana, Palestine, Westwood, Alba Golden, top 10.
New Diana?
New Diana. Send all your hate tweets to Brandon O Sports.
He gonna stop doing them polls. I'm with it, Brandon. Hey, I did it last week, Brandon. I vote for chaos. Let's do it. Break the bracket. The bracket. That's it. Hashtag break the bracket.
He had to have forgotten Dangerfield, right? I mean, surely
he probably did.
He had to. He had to. There's no way. There's no way he left.
He just forgot, and now he's reminded. Oh yeah, I probably should have put them in there.
Oh man, Jeremy, I'm with you.
Jeremy, freeze frame Jeremy's look. It's
like for me,
you know what, Eddie? You're right. Eddie, you are exactly right in the chat. Just like the coaches poll in college football, we should have to post everybody's poll every week.
Nah.
I don't need nobody coming for me.
Nah.
You won't give me no way. You know I don't look at social media.
That's funny.
That's not a good idea.
He said Dangerfield is not in East Texas. Huh? I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe Eddie must have already messaged him.
You know Eddie. Eddie probably already.
I will say this is always a lot of fun, and you know, it just shows this classification here is so just. There's so many teams that are doing well right now.
You really could. Honestly, we should only be arguing probably the top 5. Outside of that, the rest of these teams could all be number 6. You know,
man, the hate, Eddie.
I'm okay with it. By the way, I'm going to see that masterful Alba Golden team tomorrow when they play Big Sandy. So I'll be shooting highlights of that one. So they haven't been scored on yet. We'll have to see if they get scored on.
Will Kyle be the bad luck for Alba Golden?
Who knows? They probably think I will. Watch. If they I don't think they're going to lose. I think Alba's going to win. But if they were to lose and they see me there, just wait. It's because he was there.
Eddie's giving you some love. He said he's playing with you. He's giving you a hard time. That's what we like about this show, Eddie. We appreciate you being on with us. That's going to do it for this week's show. If you want to see what we actually picked this week for week 4, make sure you check out the Beast from the East show. We released that this morning. There's on YouTube and on our also on the app. You want to check out our podcast there. Guys,
I feel good about my picks this week. I think I'm going undefeated.
Tell us where you're going to be at this week, Kyle.
Well, tomorrow I'm being Big Sandy for the Big Sandy Alba Golden game, shooting first half highlights of that one. Then Friday night, be with the big boys. We'll be at Lobo Stadium in Longview for the matchup between Longview and Lufkin. So looking forward to that one. And going to have to get some popcorn at halftime from Lobo Stadium. They have the best popcorn in the press box anywhere I've ever been.
Oh, okay. All right. We know where Jeremy's going to be. That game's in White Oak tomorrow night, right, Coach? Or Friday night?
Yeah, we'll be at White Oak, 7 o'clock kickoff, homecoming for the Roughnecks.
Oh, the disrespect.
Putting you up on homecoming.
Bad week to disrespect this KO, to be honest with you.
Man.
Bad week.
I know.
Bring out
bad week.
Y'all
I'm just going to tell you, it was the wrong week, Vince.
Over under 50 points being scored.
Over under?
Not total, by y'all.
I still think that's probably under. I guess the fair question would be over under 6 for them. 7.
I'm going under because even if they do score, you're blocking the extra point.
Oh, there we go. And
returning
Jeremy said we giving them nothing. What he say? What they say in Remember the Titans? We're gonna blitz all night.
He said, I don't want
Get one of them cross that line. I'm taking every last one of you out.
Wrong week to be the homecoming opponent. I'm just going to tell you.
And speaking of homecoming, Vince and I will be at Chapel Hill's homecoming this week, calling the game in Chapel Hill as they will take on Nacogdoches. Game time at 7:30, and that game will be.
Here's a question for that one.
What's that?
Does Chapel Hill score 50 again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe in the first half.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe not.
I don't know. I ain't gonna say the first half because I feel like we always start kind of slow and then we pick up speed in the second half. But we scoring 50. It's gonna score. You gonna score 50.
Yeah, it's going.
Brisbane and Stewart out in the third quarter.
Yeah,
absolutely.
After 3 quarters, I think they're done.
All right.
That game will be on Texan Live. We'll also have the audio feed on our YouTube channel. So check it out. Also, we'll have the Center Rough Riders will be hosting Dangerfield this week. It'll be a great game. Also on NetSN. So if you're at a game, Kyle, you can check out that game.
I don't have time for all that, but I can watch it when I get home.
Jeremy can't watch it. He's too busy coaching. Yeah. Well, he may be done coaching in the third quarter, so he could pull out his app.
Wow. But maybe.
For Jeremy, for Kyle, for Vince, thanks, Professor Diggs, for joining us tonight. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch you next week right here on the weekly wrap-up show. Everybody have a great football weekend. Night, everybody.
Peace.
Is your demanding work lifestyle in need of fire-resistant clothing that can keep up? Well, L4FR clothing should be your go-to for quality, affordability, safety, and style. L4FR was founded by a third-generation oil field worker who is also a veteran. Thus, this company has a deep appreciation for reliability and longevity, all while we provide first-rate customer service. Our durable apparel will serve you well for many years to come, whether you're working on a pipeline, a lineman climbing utility poles, or in any other environment requiring fire-resistant apparel. L4FR has you covered. Our apparel is tough enough to resist hazardous conditions while still providing high comfort and style. L4FR provides clothing options to ensure your safety and comfort, whether you're on the job or not. To view our complete inventory of flame-resistant garments, please visit our online store at l4frclothing.com or give us a call at 817-757-4935. Si habla español.
Struggling with mobility, chronic pain, work, or sports injury? At Azalea Orthopedics, our team of highly trained physicians specialize in complete orthopedic care, pain management, sports medicine, physical medicine, and rehabilitation. If you've sustained a bone or joint injury, have mobility or movement problems, struggle with pain, contact Azalea Orthopedics. We're conveniently located across East Texas, serving 18 counties. When visiting your doctor, urgent care, or hospital, you have a choice. Demand Azalea. At Azalea Orthopedics, your health is our priority.